Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only, ripped raw from the blistering federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. The courtroom was silent as a crypt, the air thick with anticipation. Then, like a thunderbolt, the footage flickered onto the screens, and what started as mundane home surveillance morphed into a nightmare that froze every soul in the room. There he was, Sean Diddy Combs, barefoot, slinking through Kim Porter's dimly lit hallway at 2:11 a.m., just days before her lifeless body was discovered. The jury gaped, eyes wide with horror. The gallery turned to stone, breaths held in collective dread, as Diddy, with eerie precision, eased open the door to Kim's bedroom, where she lay sleeping, unaware. The screen went black. No warning, no continuation, just a suffocating void. Prosecutors dropped the bomb. The system was sabotaged. Kim's final text screamed she was being watched, stalked, hunted. And now, with this footage finally unleashed in open court, the question searing through every mind wasn't just why Diddy was there that night, it was what the hell happened when the cameras died. Day 10 was supposed to be a yawn fest, a slog, of procedural motions, expert witnesses droning on, and legal nitpicking that had put you to sleep. But at exactly 2:07 p.m., the script flipped, and the courtroom became a stage for one of the most shocking reveals in trial history. The lead prosecutor, cool as a blade and sharp as a whip, stood and requested permission to play a piece of evidence so secret, so tightly sealed, it caught even Diddy's high-roller legal team off guard. Whispers buzzed through the gallery like wildfire as two massive monitors were wheeled in, their screens glinting under the fluorescent lights. The lights dimmed, casting long shadows across the room. Jurors sat bolt upright, no pets forgotten, eyes locked on the screens. Then, bam! The footage hit like a sledgehammer. Grainy, black and white surveillance, timestamped 2:11 a.m., November 13th, 2018. 3 nights before Kim Porter was found dead in her Toluca Lake home. The hallway camera's low-res feed was unmistakable, a hooded figure, barefoot, moving with the stealth of a predator. Gasps ricocheted off the walls as the face came into focus. Diddy, calm, calculated, his eyes burning with intent. He reached the end of the hallway, stood before Kim's bedroom door, and without a knock, without a word, turned the knob and slipped inside. Then, static. A 12-second blackout, no sound, no backup feed, just a void that screamed louder than any image. When the feed flickered back, the door was shut, the hallway empty, Diddy gone without a trace. The courtroom was a graveyard, the silence so thick you could choke on it. Jurors sat pale, some gripping their chairs like lifelines, others frozen in disbelief. Reporters scribbled furiously, pens scratching like a swarm of insects, too stunned to look away. Diddy leaned forward, hissing urgent whispers to his attorney, his eyes darting like a cornered animal's. Sweat glistened on his brow, betraying the cool facade he'd worn for days. The prosecutor let the silence sear, letting it burn into every soul in the room before dropping a bombshell that shook the foundations. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what was recorded 3 nights before Kim Porter was found dead in that very home. The video was verified, time-stamped, locked away until now due to chain of custody protocols. What you just witnessed, what you just felt in your bones, the prosecutor said, voice like a blade, is the moment this trial stopped being about whispers and rumors. This is real. No one laughed, no one blinked, and in that instant, the room knew. Whatever went down that night wasn't just gossip. It was a dark, undeniable truth that could rewrite everything. Before the footage even rolled, the prosecution set the stage with a masterclass in storytelling, painting a picture so vivid it felt like a movie, one with a sinister edge. Kim Porter wasn't just Diddy's ex-girlfriend or the mother of 3 of his children. She was his shadow, his confidant, a woman who'd stood at the heart of his empire for nearly 2 decades. From blockbuster music deals to secret, star-studded bashes, from dazzling red carpets to hushed late-night phone calls, Kim saw it all, the glitz, the power, and the rot beneath. She wasn't just a bystander, she was a keeper of secrets. And toward the end of her life, those secrets were eating her alive. Friends testified that Kim had become a ghost of herself, anxious, paranoid, jumping at shadows. Weeks before her death, she confided in a close friend, her voice trembling. If I ever tell the full story, none of them will survive it. Not one. The court was shown her journal, pages scrawled in October 2018, the ink heavy with fear. They think I'll stay silent forever, but I'm tired. If something happens to me, it wasn't an accident. I'm done protecting them. She'd been meeting with a fearless investigative journalist who swore in a sealed deposition that Kim was ready to blow the lid off Diddy's world. She had documents, names, dates, details of shadowy gatherings, private jet manifests, and NDAs that choked the truth out of anyone who signed them. Kim knew the risks, but she was done hiding. Text messages revealed she'd contacted a lawyer about penning a memoir, her words cautious but resolute. I don't want vengeance. I want the truth out before it's too late. Prosecutors didn't mince words. Kim wasn't just a witness, she was a ticking time bomb, a liability that empires like Diddy's don't let walk away. The footage of him sneaking into her bedroom wasn't just creepy, it was a blazing neon sign that something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Kim was on the verge of exposing it all, and the timing of her death felt too convenient, too clean. The jury looked haunted, their faces pale as they realized this wasn't just a video clip, it was the final chapter of a woman who dared to speak and might have paid the ultimate price. The prosecution laid out the timeline like a horror novel, each detail tightening the noose. At 9:30 p.m., Kim's teenage daughters and their cousin left the house for dinner, leaving Kim alone. Her nanny had clocked out hours earlier, and no guests were expected. By 10:45 p.m., interior footage showed Kim pouring a glass of herbal tea, heading to her bedroom and flicking off the lights. The house was still, silent, a fortress of solitude. Then, at 2:11 a.m., Diddy appeared, entering through a side door. No alarm triggered, no main entrance footage captured him. Security logs confirmed the door required a personal override code, one only a handful of people knew. Diddy's legal team scrambled, insisting he had every right to be there, that he'd used the code for years as a co-parent and trusted figure. Prosecutors tore that apart with surgical precision. No phone call, no doorbell, no announcement. He didn't come to visit. He stalked his way in. The next moments were dissected with chilling detail, each frame a piece of a puzzle that spelled disaster. Diddy moved barefoot, his steps deliberate, almost ghostly, pausing at the end of the hallway as if listening for signs of life. The prosecution showed stills, zoomed in tight on his face, jaw clenched, brow furrowed, eyes burning with a focus that sent shivers down spines. He reached Kim's bedroom door, didn't hesitate, didn't knock, just turned the knob and slipped. Inside, like a shadow. Then, nothing. 12 seconds of static. A black void that swallowed the truth. Prosecutors brought in a digital forensics expert, a tech wizard who testified with unshakable confidence. This wasn't a glitch, it was a manual shutdown. Someone killed that feed. The blackout hit only that camera, only for those 12 seconds. Back-end logs showed a remote login at 2:14:39 a.m. using secure credentials. The IP address untraceable, but clearly wielded by someone with expert access. This takes root-level clearance, not just a passcode, the expert said, shutting down the defense's feeble claims of software updates or interference. The last update was weeks prior. The system was flawless for 60 days straight. This was sabotage, plain and simple. Then came the gut-punch revelation that made the courtroom buzz like a hornet's nest. A security consultant who'd installed Kim's system took the stand and dropped a bombshell. Only 3 people had root access to the surveillance: Kim, Porter, her head bodyguard, and Sean Diddy Combs. The gallery erupted in whispers, jurors exchanging stunned glances. The prosecution pounced, their questions slicing through the tension. So, you're saying only the victim, her security chief, or the defendant could have killed that camera feed? The consultant nodded, voice steady. Correct. And there were no signs of hacking, no unauthorized login attempts. Whoever did this had the keys. The jury shifted in their seats, the air thick with dread. What had started as a creepy late-night visit now looked like a calculated erasure, a digital vanishing act to hide something sinister. The prosecution didn't let up, turning their gaze on Diddy, their words like daggers. Mr. Combs, what did you do in those missing 12 seconds? The system doesn't know, but maybe you do. Diddy didn't flinch, but his silence was louder than any defense. His cool facade was cracking, and the room could feel it. For the first time, Diddy looked rattled, his polished armor slipping under the courtroom's harsh glare. He leaned into his attorney, whispering frantically, his brow slick with sweat. His hands gripped the defense table, knuckles whitening as if anchoring himself against a storm. The courtroom sketch artist captured it all: the tense jawline, the flexing fingers, the barely concealed panic of a man watching his empire teeter. Diddy had faced lawsuits, tabloids, and rumors before, but this was different. Sworn testimony, hard evidence, a spotlight he couldn't dim. Prosecutors let his unease simmer, giving the jury time to soak in his fraying composure. Reporters jotted headlines that screamed drama. Diddy cracks under pressure, the mask slips. Social media went feral. Courtroom clips were banned, but vivid descriptions from journalists sent hashtags like non-Diddy trial and Kim Porter trending into the stratosphere. The world was watching, and Diddy's untouchable aura was crumbling in real time. Then came a searing exhibit that hit like a lightning bolt. The prosecution presented a still frame from the footage, captured moments before Diddy entered Kim's room. His face, half shadowed by the hoodie, stared straight into the camera, eyes cold, calculating, almost daring it to see him. The prosecutor held the image aloft, voice booming. "This isn't a man caught off guard. This is a man who believed he'd stay invisible." The room reeled, gasps echoing. Diddy shifted in his seat, a flicker of fear breaking through his stoic mask. For the first time, he looked like a man realizing the walls were closing in, the narrative slipping from his grasp. The still was a silent accusation, a snapshot of intent that no lawyer could spin away. The jury leaned forward, their eyes darting between the image and Diddy, as if trying to reconcile the mogul with the shadow. On the screen, the prosecution pivoted to Kim's final days, her own words painting a portrait of a woman trapped in a web of fear. Her phone logs, pulled from cloud backups, revealed a flurry of activity from November 10th to 14th, over 40 messages to close friends, her lawyer, and a journalist she'd been feeding intel for a planned exposé. One message, sent November 12th, was haunting. "He was here again last night. I didn't see him, but I heard footsteps in the hall. The cameras didn't catch it, like he knows when they're off." Another, sent just 48 hours before her death, was a plea. "If I'm gone, please tell the truth. I'm done covering for him." The prosecutor let those words hang, projected on the screen, burning into the room's collective psyche. Kim's friends testified she was paranoid but razor sharp, canceling public appearances, declining invites, confiding to one, "I feel like I'm being erased from the board, like a pawn they don't need anymore." A voicemail, played in open court, was pure dread. Kim's voice low and trembling late at night. "He's back. I heard the gate creak. He's not supposed to be here, but the code still works. I locked my door. I'm scared." Left on her lawyer's line on November 12th, it went unheard until after her death. The final text, sent at 2:10 a.m., 1 minute before Diddy appeared on camera, went to her cousin, "I think he's in the house." No reply. It was never opened. Kim was dead within 72 hours. Her voice silenced, but her words now screaming. In the courtroom, the prosecution's next move was a masterstroke, a bombshell that sent chills racing through the room. They called Dr. Ellen Hayes, an independent forensic pathologist who'd reviewed Kim's autopsy with a fine-tooth comb. The official cause of death, ruled in 2018, was lobar pneumonia, a bacterial lung infection. But Hayes wasn't buying the tidy narrative. "The timeline doesn't add up," she said, flipping through a stack of annotated medical scans. "Fatal pneumonia doesn't strike this fast without warning signs." Kim had undergone a full health screening a month prior, testing negative for flu, respiratory illnesses, or any viral precursors. In her final days, there was no documented coughing, no fever, no respiratory distress noted by family, staff, or friends. Then came the shocker that made the gallery gasp. Toxicology reports showed elevated levels of sedative compounds in Kim's system, dismissed by the coroner as standard sleep aids. Hayes shook her head, voice firm. "These levels aren't for sleep. They're consistent with heavy sedation, like what's used for surgical prep or restraint." Diddy's legal team objected, their voices sharp with desperation, but the judge let Hayes continue. She revealed a second toxicology test had been requested due to the suddenness of Kim's death and the lack of symptomatic buildup, a standard procedure. But the request was mysteriously blocked, canceled within 24 hours, before Kim's funeral, and before the media storm faded. "A toxicology expansion panel was medically justified," Hayes said. "Someone stopped it, and we don't know who." When asked if foul play could be ruled out, Hayes' answer was a knife to the heart. No, not with these inconsistencies, these closed doors. The jury was visibly rattled, their faces a mix of shock and unease. Kim's death, once neatly filed away as a medical tragedy, now reeked of sabotage. Erased logs, blocked tests, unexplained sedatives, and Diddy's shadowy presence in her home that very week. The prosecution's final blow was Kim's own voice, a digital ghost rising from the grave to demand justice. Recovered from her laptop's cloud storage, an unsent email draft dated November 11, 2018 was titled, "What I Know About Puff." It was a confession, a safety deposit box of secrets, a ticking bomb she never got to send. The subject line alone sent shivers through the room, but the contents were devastating. This is the truth. I'm tired of carrying it, tired of staying silent while people hurt others and walk free. I'm scared, but I'm done being scared. If you're reading this, something happened to me, or I chose to stop protecting him. The email listed bullet points, a chilling timeline of events, names of players in Diddy's orbit, dates of secret parties, hidden hotel bookings, mentions of underground gatherings where talent was pressured, and NDAs signed under duress. It named celebrities who participated, others who left broken, their spirits crushed by what they'd witnessed. But it was the final paragraph that turned the courtroom ice cold, a passage that felt like Kim reaching from beyond to grab the room by the throat. He used to tell me, "No one will believe you. I own the narrative. I am the story." For years, I believed him, but now I want the world to know I tried. I spoke up, I put it in writing. If I end up gone, I didn't go willingly. Prosecutors read it slowly, each word landing like a hammer. Jurors shook their heads, some visibly trembling. One woman in the back row wept silently, her hand covering her mouth. The courtroom sketch artist stopped drawing, staring in stunned silence. This wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was a desperate cry for help, timed just 2 days before the surveillance footage, hours before Diddy's visit, moments before the silence that swallowed her. Diddy's legal team had no rebuttal, no clever spin to deflect the email's weight. It was verified, undeniable, a digital testament to Kim's courage. She wasn't planning to fade into the shadows. She was gearing up to expose everything, to tear down the empire from the inside. The courtroom shifted, the air heavy with a palpable sense of reckoning. Diddy's face was a mask of tension, his eyes fixed on the table, avoiding the jury's gaze. What had started as a trial about abuse, intimidation, and whispered secrets had now been reframed around a darker, more sinister possibility. Was Kim Porter's death not just tragic, but orchestrated? The prosecutor, standing tall beside the jury box, drove the point home with a voice that cut through the room. This case isn't about what Diddy said, it's about what he did when he thought no one was watching. He pointed to the surveillance footage, the blackout logs, Kim's frantic texts, her terrified voicemail, the unexplained sedatives, the blocked toxicology report, and the email titled, "What I Know About Puff." Then, with a pause that burned, like fire, he delivered the line that sent whispers erupting through the gallery. This isn't a murder trial yet, but it's a trial about pattern, power, and silence. And Kim Porter was silenced. He held up the still frame of Diddy's face, captured just before he entered Kim's room, his eyes staring into the camera with chilling calculation. He didn't expect you to see this. He didn't expect this day to come. But here we are, and the truth is louder than his lies. The judge called for a recess, and the room exhaled, a collective shudder rippling through the crowd. A heavy awareness settled in. This wasn't just about whether something happened. It was about how deep, how dark, how far this scandal reached. As the courtroom emptied, reporters scrambled to file stories, their notes brimming with phrases like "trial's turning point" and "Kim's voice breaks through." Social media was a firestorm. Though courtroom clips were banned, vivid accounts from journalists fueled hashtags like Diddy exposed and Justice for Kim, trending worldwide within minutes. The world was watching, and Diddy's untouchable aura was crumbling under the weight of evidence and outrage. When court reconvened the next morning, the atmosphere was electric, charged with a sense of inevitability. Diddy didn't smile, not once. His usual swagger, the smirks and calm exchanges with his lawyers, were gone, replaced by a man who seemed to feel the walls closing in. For the first time, the narrative wasn't his to control. It belonged to Kim Porter, her words, her warnings, her courage echoing through the courtroom like a beacon. This trial wasn't just about Diddy's empire, it was about the woman who dared to challenge it and the price she might have paid. The jury, the gallery, the world. They weren't just listening to a case anymore, they were witnessing a reckoning, one that could rewrite the story of power, silence, and the secrets that refused to stay buried.